You guys, happy Earth Day. I'll be real honest with you and tell you that I woke up this morning and I had no idea it was Earth Day. But I saw all of the posts on social media about Earth Day. But my excuse is we don't get much sleep these days with a newborn. He's back there just chilling. And so I don't know what day of the week it is half the time anymore. So happy Earth Day. We are celebrating Earth Day today the best way we know how, and that is by planting the tunnel. So we are going to officially get all of the tomatoes in the tunnel today. Hopefully the peppers too. We'll see how what time allows. Tyler's going to be working on the irrigation. My mom's coming out to help me today. So we are going to get started. Okay, y'all, I have mentioned in videos past that this year our plan is to sell to restaurants. We do have one restaurant kind of in our back pocket that we are going to be selling tomatoes to. And then we're kind of in talks with another newer restaurant in town, which is really exciting too. So this tunnel is pretty much dedicated to restaurant sales, which is kind of how we determined what we were going to be putting into the tunnel. So obviously we're putting in the tunnel what the restaurants want, right? So last year was our first year growing in the tunnel. I intentionally did not use all of the space in the tunnel just because I didn't want to overwhelm myself. This year we're really trying to maximize the space in here and just fill it up the best we can. So what we've got in here are several varieties of tomatoes. We're doing, and I'll show you I've got it all mapped out, and I've told you I like to use graph paper? Yeah, graph paper to do all of my mapping out of my gardens, just because I'm a visual person and that's what helps me the most. So that's what I've got here. So we're doing several varieties of tomatoes, and again, it's pretty much what the restaurants want. They specifically wanted Cherokee purples. I don't necessarily love Cherokee purples, but that's what they wanted, so that's what we're growing. We've got a hybrid called Chef Choice Orange that we're going to be growing for the first time this year. We also have Abe Lincoln for that bigger, meatier, kind of pinkish red tomato. I'm also going to be growing a determinate tomato this year. I don't typically grow those, but I'm going to be growing the Grand Marshal determinate tomato. I'm going to be playing around with that and doing some succession sowing of that. So we'll have our first succession of the Grand Marshal in here today. I've got two varieties of cherry tomatoes, the blueberry cherry and then a sun peach. The sun peach came from Johnny Seeds. Last year was the first time I had grown that one, and it did really well for me. So we're going to be growing that one again this year. We've also got a couple of varieties of Italian peppers and then some little lunchbox style peppers, and then a small section of the tunnel is going to be dedicated to cucumbers. So that's pretty much what we have. It's all mapped out on my graph paper, so hopefully this should be pretty much an easy process. It's just plugging them in. There's really no guesswork to it. I wanted to show you this. I had mentioned that I wanted to try to keep all of my plant starch really in the soil blocks, so I didn't have to worry about potting anything. I didn't really know how that was going to work, but it has worked really well. I mean, that's a healthy little, really sturdy, healthy little plant start there. This is the Chef Choice Orange, and just because I know people will probably ask, in the tunnel I'm spacing these guys at I'm going to be doing 2 rows in my 30-inch beds, and I'm spacing the tomatoes 18 inches apart is how I'm going to do it. I hard prune mine to 1 liters because of the area we're in. It gets really hot and humid here. The humidity is what really kind of kills us when it comes to things like tomatoes. We get a lot of fungal diseases from the humidity. So I hard prune all of my tomatoes. Okay, y'all, change of clothes because it is the next day out here. There wasn't a lot of filming that got done yesterday. Unfortunately, my phone died, and that's just kind of the way it works. When I get a lot of work done, I don't get a lot of filming done, and when I get a lot of filming done, I don't necessarily get a lot of work done. So we did get a ton of work done yesterday. We got these 2 50-foot beds filled with tomatoes. Over there are the big slicer tomatoes, and then over here are our cherry tomatoes. And then today the boys had baseball practice, so Tyler took both of the big boys and baby Cal with him. So I have about an hour to get out here and try to plug these Grand Marshal tomatoes into the ground. That'll be the last of my tomatoes, and then I just have peppers and cucumbers to go. All of those big slicer tomatoes I just showed you and the cherry tomatoes, those are all indeterminate varieties. They will be trellised. Well, you can actually see where I trellised last year on this electrical conduit with the strings coming down. That's how I'll be trellising again this year. But on these determinate varieties here, like this Grand Marshal, they'll be supported using the Florida weave method. So if you're not familiar with that, you could just give it a quick Google search, or you'll see it later on in the season as these guys get a little bit bigger. Those indeterminate varieties that I planted yesterday, those are all 18 inches apart. On this determinate variety here, I'm going to try planting these guys 12 inches apart. Per the Johnny's website, which is where I got these seeds, that can be done on determinate varieties. We'll see. I've never actually grown a determinate variety, so we're going to go with 12 inches apart. I'm going to be doing, like I said yesterday, I'm going to be doing succession sowing of this variety in particular. Today I've got roughly, I think, about 25 or so, maybe closer to 30, 35 of these guys that I'm going to be putting in the ground. So I better get started because I only have an hour to work. Okay, y'all, we did it. That is 30 Grand Marshals in the ground. That's actually a few more than I wanted to plant, or I intended to plant. But I didn't want them to go to waste because those seeds were a little on the expensive side. So I went ahead and put them in the ground anyways. I'll come back. Ideally, I would have gone ahead and put my stakes for my Florida weave in the ground, but whatever. I'll come back later and put those in before these guys get too big, probably in the next few days or so. And then as they start to grow, we'll start to trellis them up with the Florida weave method. All of my guys over here planted. I want to take you and show you. I think my nemesis this year is going to be the bunny rabbit, unfortunately. You know, in years past, we have had 2 Great Pyrenees. One was recently hit by a car and died, unfortunately. And then the other one we're having to keep pinned up with the goats. We used to let them roam our property, and they did a really good job of keeping the rabbits away, but now that we're not allowed to let them roam like we used to, the rabbit situation has just been out of control. So I was noticing as I was walking through here that 2, I mean, it's not a huge deal because it's just 2 out of what, like, I think this is about 120 plants over on this side of me. 2 have been chewed down. I'll show you. Actually, one is right here, and I feel pretty confident it was a rabbit. Can you see that? Looks like maybe a rabbit came in and just gnawed him right down. So I have 2 of these I'm going to go in and replace. I do have replacements for them. And then what I'm going to do for now is go ahead and put insect netting over all of these rows to keep the rabbits away. That's going to be kind of a short-term solution though, because, you know, as they grow, the insect netting will have to come off. So if you have suggestions on how to keep rabbits away, I'm all ears, because I don't know. I've not ever had to really deal with them. Okay, you guys, the tunnel is officially planted with tomatoes. I still have peppers and cucumbers to go. The tomatoes were kind of the biggest thing, though. That was definitely what is filling up the majority of the tunnel. So I feel like I got a huge chunk kind of knocked out of the way here. But the boys are almost done with ball practice. The baby's coming home, so mom duties call. This year looks way different than last year in terms of how my time is spent out here. This time last year, if I needed to spend all day in the tunnel, I would spend all day in the tunnel, and it was no big deal. But right now, I'm just in a different season of life. So my time is very sporadic in terms of how long I can spend out here. So it's maybe, an hour or so out here, and then I have to run inside for a little while. And if I need to get back out here, I try to get back out here. But the funny thing is, when I was pregnant, this is actually something I kind of mentally prepared myself for. I knew this is how it was going to be. A lot of new moms, or maybe not new moms, but moms that are kind of mentally preparing for a newborn to arrive, a lot of times are, I feel like, preparing themselves for the sleepless nights and the crying babies and all that. But those 9 months that I was pregnant, I was definitely preparing myself for the fact that my time would be limited. My time outdoors would be limited. The fact that I can't focus all of my time and energy, or as much time and energy as I want, into the goals that I have for our farm and our market garden is definitely a little stressful. But this is our third time around with a newborn, so I definitely have a little bit of insider knowledge, and I know that this is just a season, and this newborn phase goes by really quickly. And so I also find myself really trying to soak up those moments, because as far as Tyler and I are concerned, this is the last baby for us. And so I know it will go by really quickly. So I don't want to wish these moments away. I don't wish them away. I actually find that, the third time around with this third baby, that I'm enjoying it a little more than I did with number 1 and number 2. I'm not wishing my time away. But I also am not putting my goals and my ambitions on the back burner just because we have a newborn. I'm just kind of making the best with the time that I have, and we're just going to roll with it, and we're going to do the best we can. But this feels like getting this tunnel somewhat planted, or really majority planted right now, feels good, and it feels like kind of new beginnings. It's a new season, and this, entering into the summer season. I enjoy the fall and I enjoy the winter, but entering into the summer garden season is just kind of my jam, and I'm really excited about it. But like I said, the boys are almost home, so I got to make my way back down to the house. I hope you guys are getting your gardens planted. If it's time for you to plant your gardens, your summer gardens, I hope it's going well for you, and I wish you the best, and we'll see you next time.